Welcome back to the Tier 1 podcast. I'm your host, Brent Tucker, owner of FRCC, that's First Responder Coffee, Cigar, and Cask Company, and we do just that. Go to frcc.shop and use promo code Tier1 to get 15% off the world's best coffee, cigars, and bourbon.
And I'm Drew Tucker, flavoring cigars at First Responder Cigar, Coffee, and Cask Company. Guys, I invite you to join our Patreon. It's brought to you by Cobalt Kinetics. There you get behind-the-scenes content, exclusive content. There's a weapons forum. There's a fitness forum. There's a great community of Tier 1 minded men and women. And also we have a gun expert in our weapons forum from Cobalt Kinetics, ready to answer all of your questions. So join the Patreon today.
And as always, this episode is brought to you by Human Performance TRT. Go to hp-trt.com and use promo code Tier1 to get 20% off all your testosterone and peptide needs. Don't wait any longer to get in the best shape of your life. All right, Drew, let's do it.
Special Forces ready.
Welcome to the Tier 1 podcast.
This is amazing, dude. Check this out, right?
With us today, we have retired SEAL Team 6 operator and founder of Veterans for Child Rescue, Craig Sawyer. Craig, welcome to the show.
Thank you, brother. It's a pleasure to be on with you.
Right off the bat, I want to give this to you. That is one of our camouflage cigars. It's our Delta, and we'll get into what you do later. But I want to give you something. One, to say thank you for coming on the show, and two, I want you to save someone in need. And when there's time to reflect on a job well done, I want you to smoke that.
Right on. Will do. This looks like one handsome cigar.
we think so. Let's
thank
get
you for that.
Oh, absolutely, and thank you for what you do. And let's find out more about that. Let's get into it.
Okay.
It's always good to get another Tier 1 guy on the show. I've always said it's not all about Tier 1 operators. It's about a Tier 1 lifestyle. It's about being Tier 1 at everything you can do. I want you to be a Tier 1 father, Tier 1 husband, Tier 1 worker, things like that. But again, doesn't make it any less special. An actual Tier 1 guy is on the show. So appreciate you coming over.
Yeah, man. And I agree with you. That culture permeates everything else. One of the things that I can say right off the bat is it gave me that willingness to go into the uncomfortable space of the unknown, to be embarrassed learning a new skill and not be hesitant. So many people, that I've trained before and after that, they don't want to be the first guy to volunteer because they don't want to look awkward, or it's like, hey, it's new, we expect you to be awkward. Just do your best and don't quit. So, yeah. Man, if you've got that mindset, that culture behind you, it's a lot easier to learn a lot of other skills, and including you mentioned fatherhood. Man, that's a big deal. That's something that continues. So
I think you bring up a really good point. I think some people don't become better at whatever it is they want to do because it's uncomfortable to go learn something. It was uncomfortable for me to go to Delta selection, and fail. It's embarrassing to go be the first one to try to shoot an OTC at a shooting event with all your friends looking at you for you to screw this up. Yeah. But it's battling that fear of the unknown and being like, it's okay. It is okay to make a mistake. Here's the mantra: it's not okay to stay at that level. Don't make the same mistake twice. Learn from it. There's no growth without mistakes.
Bingo. It's like get your mistakes out of the way here before everybody's shooting at us. Right?
Yeah.
Get it on here. Get your mistakes out of the way. Let your buddies laugh at you instead of your buddies dragging you off the battlefield, or worse, them being drug off because you failed. So that culture really, it's there for a reason, and it's beneficial.
Yeah. The business world is really the same way. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's sports, business, the military. I've said this before, and it's a little bit odd for some as a Christian to say this, because the Bible obviously says pride goeth before a fall, and pride is a bad thing. But an abundance of pride is a bad thing. And anytime you have too much pride, the pride where you don't want your coworker to see you make a mistake, because if you do, then you've kind of presented this, I'm on a pedestal, I always do things right, I'm infallible, when the truth is no one is. And you have to be able to, to swallow your pride, make a mistake, and learn from it.
Yeah, I agree. If you look at it really the way you just said it, too much pride. So pride in your performance, pride in your unit, right?
Yeah.
That's a good thing, because it causes you to strive to make sure you're not the guy that drops the ball. But, that's confidence in your ability to just go stick it and do it and make it work. That's good.
Yeah.
But arrogance, pride, when it gets to I don't want to train harder because I don't want to fail in front of my teammates. That's counterproductive. That won't work.
Yeah, I think you nailed it when you tied arrogance in with pride. That's when pride has gone too far, and it's going to become
and it's tied with ego too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be seen as other. Well, shoot, if you're the first guy diving on the grenade and training, and I used to say that metaphorically, but if you're the first guy that'll jump in there and try hard and learn and figure it out and then get good, then you're moving ahead of those that won't. So, I think that's a good aspect of that culture. And I encourage people to, especially in jobs that really matter, don't hesitate to train, man, always. And you're never too old. You're never too senior to get in and get your hands on things and make the mistakes in training, because that's what it's for.
Where did you get that mindset from? Was that this mindset? Of course, it would have gotten cultivated, over the years. But was it something that was instilled in you early on, or you think that's something you developed over the years and throughout the military and your training?
I developed it inherently, but I also learned it from watching others. I mean, when I was fighting martial arts tournaments in high school, I learned that was transferring over to my football, because I was a D linebacker and I was captain of the team, and I had pride in that because I was happy to make that contribution, and the adrenaline rush of that battle felt really good to a young man there in Southern Texas, right? Football is a big deal in our culture. So I loved that, and I found that I was quick, man. They would do drills where you'd get in a ready position and they would say left, right, left, 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 right, left, left, and you go to quarter turn every time they said that. I could stay right with them no matter how fast they went, and I could see that the other guys weren't with me. So I was first at that, and I started realizing if I would try harder, even if I got it wrong, I was outpacing the me that would not have done that, because it's the try hard factor.
Yeah.
I was applying myself. I was willing to be wrong and see how quickly I could go. And in that, it started building that, I think, within myself, my own psyche. And I was willing to do that because it was paying off. And then I saw other guys in training once I was in the SEAL teams who had that. And they were the first guy to jump on and with a radio and embarrassing themselves and trying to program this stupid thing. And, and they didn't care. They weren't embarrassed. Or if they were embarrassed, they realized that was secondary to wartime failure. Yeah. And so it burned it in watching other operators exercise that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of sports and sports at an early age. I think that played a pivotal part in my psychology of eventually what it took later. And sports is that foundation, and it's the fear of failure is even bigger when you're a kid, right? Nothing's worse than getting embarrassed in front of your friends as a kid. Like it's everything, but it's funny that doesn't really ever leave you, even as an adult. Yeah. It's still there.
Man, you mentioned fatherhood. Talk about that fits right in there. I don't want to cut you off.
No,
You finish
go
your
ahead.
thought, but fatherhood, man, that's a perfect opportunity to go, hey, son, you made a mistake. Get your chin up off your chest.
Yeah.
It's okay. I saw you trying. That matters. You know, don't lose that. Don't quit trying next time because it didn't go right the one time. I'm not ashamed of you. I'm proud of you. Coach doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Or if you've got good coaches, they're mentoring and encouraging those boys or girls themselves. So there's a difference between a good and bad coach.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going with it. Is that I have 4 kids. They all play sports. I encourage them to play sports. I'll never be that parent that forces sports on them and wants them to be, future pro athletes. My purpose for sports, I could care less if how far you go. My whole purpose in sports is that you put it out there, you do the best that you can, you get better, you learn from your mistakes. I never cared that my son struck out. What I cared more than anything was the why. Do you understand why you struck out? Or with my girls, do you understand why it went wrong? Because if we don't know the why, if it's just it went wrong and I don't know, it went wrong, well then you won't get better,
Right?
And those present opportunities as a parent to install and instill those values, those problem solving, that problem solving mentality into them, and
It's a great training ground.
It will pay dividends on them for the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. Just as a parent, you hope it sinks in sooner than later. Yeah. Because my dad tried to instill a lot of things in me, and I'm sure at some point my dad had to be looking like, I don't know if he's been listening to me or not. But I was, it clicks at different ages for everyone, but it eventually clicked, and I'm glad he took the time to tell me those things.
Well, I'm not proud to admit that it took me a while to listen to my dad.
Yeah,
there were some things I inherently knew were right.
Same.
He's like, don't break your word for anyone, and I've taught that to my son.
Yeah,
and other things, but in some other lessons, I had to go bullheaded, mess it up, and do it my way, and confirm, yep, that doesn't work. Dad was right, And I did tell him, in my mid-20s, I said, yeah, you were right about all of it, and I'm figuring it out. He was so patient, bro.
Yeah,
he was. I don't know how he had the patience that he did, but he was just, sometimes I would do something so jacked up and he would just smile and just observe me learning.
Yeah.
He wouldn't berate me. He had already told me.
Right.
And he was watching me figure it out. And he would just smile, and just this knowing smile, like, all right, I'm glad it's starting to click,
Did he push you in sports or encourage you in sports? Is that something that you wanted to do?
He didn't push me. Like I said, football was such a big. I started off with t-ball because my big brother, he was a great athlete and he was making all-star teams and all that. So ahead of me, I watched him do it, and we'd go to the games, and I enjoyed it. So I wanted to play with my buddies. So I started as a little tiny tot with t-ball and all that. So I played baseball until about halfway through high school.
Okay,
and really, really enjoyed that game, especially stealing bases and pitching, and all that. But
Was military in that time? Do you think military was in your future, or was that something that kind of just came about out of nowhere for you?
What we would do, my buddies and I would go around the neighborhood in elementary school and collect bottles out of the ditches and the garbage cans and take them to the grocery store and cash them in for money. We'd take that money and go to garage sales where they're selling used Boy Scout uniforms. We'd rip all the red tags off of them, all the bright colored tags, and we had olive drab Army. So we played Army, I
love it.
We played Cowboys and Indians, but we played Army more. So we, with our pop guns and our BB guns, crawling around in the woods, ambushing each other. And, that's what we did a lot of. So until we were old enough to get dirt bikes, and then they took over our pastime.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You grew up doing some motocross as well, right?
Well, I had a dirt bike I wanted to race.
Okay.
My all my buddies, not all my buddies, but probably 10 or 15 of my buddies had dirt bikes.
Yeah.
And we would get together and ride. and they had XR75s and YZ80s, proper race bikes. And I had a trail bike that was, if you're a retired couple and you want to put something on the back of your motorhome to go to the store and back with the short, fat tires and the step-through frame, right? And the handles bars close together. That's what I had, because that's what my dad could afford for me, you know?
Yeah.
And so I had to ride the heck out of that thing and twist its ears off to stay up with my buddies. And I just really enjoyed that whole process. I grew up watching Marty Smith race. My dad would take me to the motocross races in the Astrodome and see all that. And that's something that we did together. We'd watch boxing together and motocross. So those are two sports that were just really just a him and me outing. And I wanted to say before, and I stalled out, but he and my mom went to all of my events, track, football, martial arts tournaments, wherever I was going anywhere. They were always there. So he didn't push me, but they were very supportive of what I chose to do. So that's the answer I didn't get out a while ago.
Between the sports aspect, which we already talked about all the benefits of that, as well as your problem solving skills without money and your friends getting out there to play Army. And then you add in a little bit of the dirt biking, which adds a degree of danger to it. It does. That had to be the most dangerous thing you were doing as a kid, because if something went really wrong, it could go catastrophic. So it's almost like the perfect ingredient list for a future operator.
I think I had that. Well, I know I do now. Looking back on it, I had that adrenaline junkie gene.
Yeah,
I mean that's clear with all that I've done. And, it just felt good. Like with football, what I loved about football is when we had a rival team and the game was hot, man. There were fights starting and we were busting each other and it was war, man. For me, that adrenaline, I didn't realize it at the time. Adrenaline, I was hitting guys bigger than me and knocking them flat and making tackles I didn't think I could make. I was like, oh, that felt good. I felt like Superman, like I could run through walls. Well, that was adrenaline.
Yeah.
But for a young man, that's like crack, I mean, it's, or if you have that gene, it feels good. So that started something. It started probably my early development, that way. Cause my brother and I got a set of concrete weights for Christmas and I was still in elementary school. So he would lift weights. We had them upstairs in our bedroom. And every time I walked in my bedroom, I had military press and curls and a couple other things. That's all I knew to do. I started getting strong though. By the time, I was in junior high, I was one of the strongest guys on the team. Yeah. So it paid off.
Well, after hearing all this, I'm surprised when you walked into the Marine recruiter's office, he didn't just look at you and say, "We've been waiting for you, Craig."
Not at all. Not at all. He was a Force Recon Marine.
Okay.
And I wanted to go into the Marines to go into Force Recon.
Okay.
And the oil recession hit there in Houston where we were from. And the company that I was working for outside of high school, once I'd graduated, was a pipe fitters union. And it paid good, a lot of responsibility, but long hours.
Yeah.
And the oil recession hit and that company went under, old company. And so I'd been reading SOF magazine, and there was an article about Marine Corps Force Recon, the discipline, the mission, and I thought, man, those guys are pros. That's real deal stuff. I want to be. That called to me, so I went in to go do that. And he didn't tell me, my recruiter, wherever you are, that Force Recon didn't really have anything going on at the time. In fact, they were looking maybe to stand down the unit. They didn't have any political backing, no budget, and no mission. So once I got all the way through boot camp and infantry training school, I started putting in paperwork to go into Force Recon. Nobody would process the paperwork, and I had to start butting some heads and almost getting tangled up with some people to get a straight answer before they told me, the unit's not really, they're not running any selection because they don't even know if it's going to continue.
Yeah.
So they said, if you wanted to operate, you should have gone to the Navy because they're the ones with all the toys and the budget and the operations. Like they're doing stuff. I'm like, well, how do I get there from here? And they said, you can't. So I did anyway.
Here at the Tier 1 podcast, we're excited to have Tasty Gains as a sponsor, a company with values that aligns with ours. I take their products every day, 3 times a day. And if it wasn't a product that I didn't take personally and believe in, and a company with integrity, then they wouldn't be sponsors on this show. Creatine helps the body produce more ATP. which is an energy molecule that your entire body runs on. It helps improve your physical and mental performance in all aspects of life. Let's be honest, creatine powder sucks to take every day. With the creatine gummies, you can take them with you anywhere and they taste great. Every batch is third-party tested, so you know you're getting exactly what you pay for. Go to tastygains.com and enter the promo code Tier1, that's TIER, the number 1, and get 20% off your order. I forgot about Soldier of Fortune. So I'd gotten a hold of a few of those magazines when I was a kid, and as a G.I. Joe fanatic growing up.
Yeah.
That was special. You get to read about like real life G.I. Joes. And kids today, if you want to learn about Green Berets and Navy SEALs, it's on the internet. You know, there's TikTok videos about it. You can learn almost everything you want to learn. And not just from one source, multiple sources to make sure that what you think is true is true.
Yeah.
Soldier of Fortune was a little different. I'm not saying Soldier of Fortune misled people, but it's not necessarily multi-sourced and it's not necessarily verified. They've told some big tales, but they were fun to read.
Yeah, yeah. At the time, you know, as a young man, that's all there was.
Yeah.
And so I found it interesting, but that's the hook for Force Recon, you know, the dress blues and the discipline and all that. I'm like, okay, let's go do it that way. So you were already in. You did sign up for the Marines. You just couldn't end up being Force Recon like you wanted. Right. So what'd you end up getting? 0311 infantry. That's what they needed. So, you know, and I enjoyed boot camp. I did. It was tough, but I did well at it, and I was second high shooter of the company. So I learned that, you know, growing up shooting was handy in the military. So almost got the high shooter of the company. And one guy was a 27-year-old gunsmith from Arkansas who was in my platoon, outshot me finally at the end of the day. But for most of the qualification day, I was the high shooter. That felt pretty nice for a 19-year-old man, you know.
Of course, knowing that your story, and then they know your story too. Sorry, I didn't introduce you as Force Recon. I introduced you as a Navy SEAL operator. At what point it's safe to assume the 0311 that you're now doing didn't fulfill your desires, if you will, the job you were looking to do? How long did it take you to figure out and be like, well, this isn't what I wanted? It was about
2.5 years. I went ahead and hit my congresswoman with paperwork and wrote her a letter and said, hey, look, man, here's where I want to go, and here's where I'm stuck. And she facilitated. I got all the way out of the Marine Corps and started in the Navy. So I had to go back through boot camp and 10 months of tech school, gunner's mate missiles, and, you know, page-long math equations as fast as I could go all day long and half the night. It was a lot, man. I'm like, I'm never going to use this. They said, but, you know, you're probably going to fail buds, because most people do, and you need a job in the fleet when you fail. So this is the job that your recruiter said you have to have. So
could you give me an easier job in case I wash out?
But you know what it did for me, though? I didn't do well in high school in math, but I found that because I had to, I focused and applied myself, and I started learning, and then it just accelerated. And then I got to where I was wizard fast at trade calculus, all this stuff. I was like, wow, man, this is not that hard once your brain gets wired for it. But
the human body, and specifically the human brain, is an amazing thing. And of course, people are given different bodies and they're given different brains.
Yeah.
But regardless of what you were gifted with, the ability to improve on it is so vast.
Yeah.
And most people just assume they can't, or just don't put out the effort. It goes back in this, you know, self-selection mindset that people have, like, I can't. Yet you can. Like, you may not be an Olympic level sprinter. Genetics may play a part in that.
Yeah.
But you can go run a marathon. Like, there's things that the body just can do if you just make it. If you want to do it, if you refuse to take no, and that's exactly. I love your mindset, even at an early age.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing that we carry from the Tier 1 community is you see guys, you think you're good, at whatever you do and wherever you come from, you're quite the tough guy. Man, you're surrounded by like world-class athletes who are, they're wanting to pull the sled as hard as they can for the United States of America. And they're some of them are talented in ways that, like, man, if the people only knew what they had here.
There's a time and a place to be a little boastful or confident, I should say. Most Tier 1 guys, when they meet a Tier 1 guy at an event or whatever it is, I hear it a lot, and that's you'd never know that guy was a killer. He's really humble, but just it reminds me, it's really easy to be humble in a Tier 1 unit. Because you feel like everybody is better than you.
Yeah.
But yet you're confident in your abilities. And put me on a bird, with those guys, we're the best in the world. But on an individual basis, it's always a struggle to try to keep up in a building full of absolute amazing Americans.
Yeah. Yeah, it's motivating, it's inspiring
right.
to see what can be done,
right.
And you better not be the weak link, right?
You want to come back to work tomorrow, so you get a little motivation to work to try to keep up with those guys.
Yeah, you don't want to be loser boy. Like, you go sit in the truck, we're going to train. That wouldn't work.
But first things first, with you, I mean, you said to get through the white side of it, and you said your training was 10 months for your naval school you had to go to. That's a long 10 months, knowing you said something to back up a little bit. Like, I want to do this. I get it. It's easy to know that I have to get through this because I have other things I want to do. But 10 months is a long time to stay motivated. At the same time, you're not doing what you really want to do. And this is nothing that you signed up for or intend to do. How do you stay motivated? And it's easy, a month, 2 months. 10 months is a long time to stay motivated for your next phase in life. Man,
all I can tell you is I had the burn. I had it bad. I was not tempted to look away for 1 second. I was, whatever I could read, that's when I was up in Chicago, that's when I read Carlos Hathcock's book, 93 Confirmed Kills, the Marine. I got to meet him, become friends with him later on. And, whatever was coming out about Navy SEALs and operators, and I read just as much stuff about the Army. There was one of my favorite books was The Dying Place, and it was a MACV-SOG team in Vietnam. And fascinating book. Yeah. I love the way that they wrote that. And for anybody that hasn't read the book, I think that my favorite part of it was they'd come back from a series of operations. They were compromised every time they inserted, as MACV-SOG was, we know now. They were strung out. The team members kept getting killed, and 2 of them went to the beach. They took like a weekend off and went down to the beach and drank themselves silly. They came back to their little hooch that they were both of them sleeping in, and to their horror, their operator boots were sitting on their foot lockers, spit shined. The house lady had taken their operator and made them perfect, spit shined, and they were so horrified. They took it as such a bad omen. They burned them. They had a ceremony and they burned those boots. And so I just thought, those guys get it. That I understand that culture,
Yeah.
And because I'd already been in the Marine Corps, I hadn't been Spec Ops, but that's where I was going, and I just really liked that. I got to talk to the author many years later on the phone for a while, and that was pretty cool. But yeah, I was reading those kinds of books, so I was just the pull was strong. So
yeah,
I lied. My dad taught me to be honest, but they had us when we were done with school up in Great Lakes. They would have us come back to the barracks, strip all the floors on 3 decks, wax them, buff them, polish them, and by then it's like 11 o'clock at night, and then you got to do all your homework. And so when I got there was a senior group of guys about to graduate, and they had a swim team, and they were competing against other teams. And so I got on the swim team to better myself for buds. I didn't know all the official strokes, the butterfly and all that, but they taught it to me and I learned and I got stronger at it. So when they left, I kept that swim card, that dot on my ID card that said I was on the swim team.
Yeah.
So when I got done with the class, I got to go to the gym or to the pool and come back whenever I wanted to. So I didn't have to do all that stuff. And I'd come home after a great workout and I'd swim 2 miles in the pool every single night. So most nights I would hit the gym and lift weights also, but at least I would hit the pool. And then after that, I'd come home and do my homework. So I did 2 miles with no fins, side stroke, which is what we had to be good at. And man, that paid off. So when I got to buds, I was really fast with no fins, side stroke, and then they put fins on us and I went from the front of the pack to the back. We can talk about that later.
Was anyone else in your class have a buds contract, or were you the only one?
I didn't have a buds contract, but
or going to buds.
But yeah, but in fact, I had to take the test when I was in boot camp and I had 104 fever. Mm-hmm. And I almost didn't make it, but I'd prepped for it enough to where I did barely make it, but I mean, just barely.
Right.
And then that 10 months of going to tech school, and by the time I took my next test, before they actually shipped me out to buds, I smoked it. And he's like, do 3 more pull-ups. And I do them, bang them out, 3 more. Like after you do the 15 or 20,
right.
He's like, do a few more. Do a few more. Do a few more. I was just looking at him. He's like, okay, get off the bar. You're going to be all right.
I could be here all day, buddy.
But that's what that time did for me.
Yeah.
It strengthened me and prepared me. So I don't resent it, but it just seemed like a lot of time,
Yeah. I love how just consumed you were, because that's what it takes to make it to units like this. Just absolutely, it has to consume your life, has to consume your fitness, your thoughts, has to be. For me, I had no plan B.
Yeah.
Because why would I give one single thought to a plan B? Like every thought I had was plan A. This is what I'm going to do. It sounds like you had that same mindset, which means there's no way you're coming out of buds. They'd have to kill you.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one, because everybody senior to me was counseling me to have a backup plan, and I wasn't inclined.
Yeah.
I didn't want a backup plan. I didn't want a safety net because I wasn't coming back.
Right.
And that determination, I know, served me very, very well. The buds, some things read. When you see guys that you're not getting rid of them, it reads, and they could see that, and so that paid off. That helped.
When you showed up to buds, walk us through the initial phases of it.
Well, we went through pre-training first, so they attached a handful of us to SEAL Team 1, and they used us for cheap labor, but they also trained us and put us through multiple PTs each day, building us up stronger and stronger. And there was a guy, I can't remember his name now, but we'd be in a circle doing push-ups after a run or whatever, and it's like, you got no upper bodies. You got no upper bodies. And some of us were in pretty good shape, but he was just dogging us, but in a cool way.
Right.
He's a younger operator, but he was a monster physical condition, and thin, but just like a gymnast.
Yeah.
And tall, and he could do seemingly everything well physically. And so it was great that they had him training us. But so that kind of thing went on there. And then once it was time to roll into buds, we went in there, and the commander, Captain Bailey, who I'd later become friends with, and he just died either last year or 2 years ago. But he and I had started a nice friendship, talking on the phone pretty often after that in the last few years. It was really, really cool to get to know him. But he wanted a no bell hell week,
Okay.
which means nobody quits. So what they tried to do was get rid of everybody before, like crush us to the degree that there was no quitters left by Hell Week.
Right.
And so that's what they did. And then we got through Hell Week with nobody quit. There's one guy that slipped and broke his tailbone, the former Marine, and they medevaced him out, but that wasn't a quitter.
Right.
And so, he was right next to me. He slipped on the rocks and cracked, and they cut his gear off and evac'd him. But so that continued though. And then they the next phase was land warfare phase. We went into land warfare phase. Well, that group of cadre apparently hadn't talked to the first phase cadre that crushed us really good. This was class 147.
Okay.
And so the next group was going to crush us because they figured, well, if you got through Hell Week with no quitters, it must have been an easy class.
Right.
So we're going to crush you so you don't show up to the teams soft with any weaklings that don't belong. So they crushed us. And it was right before we went out to the island, because the second phase then was land warfare phase. And right before, part of it's stateside and then another part's out on an island. So before we went out on an island, they rolled several guys back because of our swim times, or if they thought we might quit. And I'm like, I'm doing well at everything. And they're like, yeah, but you're barely passing the swims, and we don't want to send you out there. I was devastated. And I could tell you to this day, I've never put out for anything that long with 100% of my effort in my life. But every one of those swims, I was digging for every microsecond I could. And I didn't know that it was this ankle. I couldn't get torque on those duck feet fins. They're very stiff.
Yep.
And I had an ankle that I'd torn all the tendons in multiple times. And I didn't realize that was the factor. And if I'd have chosen an uglier set of fins that was softer, the brown and blue ones, then I could have gotten some flex out of them and I would have been just fine.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm standing outside the captain's office, and he comes and he grabs my the clipboard and he's reading, basically we're rolling this guy back for his swim times. He's like, how come your swimming's all effed up, son? And I was like, I didn't know why. I was just, and you can't tell him, sir, I'm trying as hard as I can, because he's going to be like, BS, get out of my face. You're failing, so you must not be putting out. So they would, whenever you failed to swim, they would send you across the street to the amphib base, and there was a group of instructors there that would thrash you for a couple hours, I guess, until it's good and dark after training that day. So not only have you done the BUDS training, that's already tearing you down. You're already overtraining.
Right.
They were going to crush you and give you more time in the water to get you stronger. So you'd swim with it. First of all, they'd have you fill your mask full of water. And then once that drained into your sinuses, they would have you top it off so that it stayed full of water for the whole 2 hours. And you're swimming, you're doing butterfly with your jacket and your pants, or you're with your boots and whatever. And they make sure that it sucks, and they make sure that you don't want to be there next time.
Yeah.
And, long breath hold swims and all this kind of stuff. And so I was doing that. And then finally they rolled me back into 149, and then I finished up with them, and I finished strong. So I figure everything happens for a reason, ultimately. So I don't sweat it too hard. But that was agonizing. I will say this for anybody that goes through something like that, man. I wanted it so bad. It was agonizing to be on that teetering edge for a minute and have the threat of washing out. And I was like, but I know I belong here. I want to do this. I have it in me. But you can't tell an instructor that. You're either performing to the standard or you're not.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was rough on a young man, but I mean, no rougher than anyone else, I'm sure.
Not everyone, unfortunately, will get a chance to experience this in life, but you have. It's really easy for us to say, I'm consumed by this. I'm obsessed with this. I will never quit. We're not the only people that have said that. There's a lot of people who didn't make it who also said the same thing. But there's a difference between saying it and truly meaning it. And when you find out what your absolute worst day is, do you still mean that? Yeah. And even with that, I can only think of maybe 2 times, but even with that type of drive that I share with you, I can think of 2 times in my training, whether it be training for special operations or selection, that I still thought about quitting. It was a fleeting thought, but it crept up in my brain, which scared me. Did you ever think about quitting?
Yes, but it was actually a Marine Corps boot camp. It wasn't.
Really?
Once I got to BUDS, man, I was all about it, and I didn't have those thoughts. I heard other guys talk about it and say, "Oh, everybody thinks about quitting." I'm like, I honestly didn't.
Yeah.
But because by then I knew what I was in for, and I wanted it, man.
Yeah.
So I remember walking fire watch in the Marine Corps squad bay and looking outside and going, man, I bet I could get out of here and hop that fence and never come back. You know, that would be dumb. Like, why would you do that? But I thought of it.
Yeah.
The thought happened.
It didn't happen in Special Forces selection. That was, I showed up a machine to that, and I was absolutely, ready to go for that. For me, the first time I had thought about it, like I said, one of two times, I was in small unit tactics. We were doing a 24-hour ambush. So essentially just walk somewhere, ambush, and they just keep resetting and resetting it. And it was snowing in Fort Bragg. And we're laying in like 6 or 8 inches of snow. And you can take food away from me. You can take sleep away from me. I don't like being cold. And I sat there in the snow thinking, my friends are getting ready to go to spring break right now, probably in Daytona Beach, and I'm sitting here in the snow like an idiot. I should probably, I don't have to be here. And sitting alone on that middle of the night on that ambush line, I let my mind get away from me for a little bit.
Yeah.
Luckily, the ambush kicked off, and now it's time to go to work, and now you're up and moving again. And I didn't think about it again, but that was the first time I thought about, why am I here?
I tell you what would be a fascinating book is if someone could collect all the thoughts that spec operators have thought on ambushes while they had the time. That'd be a heck of a book.
The ambush line is a dangerous place to be because it's just you and your thoughts for what could be an hour.
Yeah.
And none of them are positive. No one's happy to be on that ambush line, sitting there as quiet as can be, just waiting for fake Op 4 to go walk by and shoot them with blanks.
Yeah.
It would be.
Yeah. We can talk about later, add lions to that. You're waiting on ambush and you hear a big alpha male lion. You're in his turf. He's not in yours. This is Africa. We can go down that road a little bit later if you want.
Okay, for sure. Yeah.
I'll say it was unsettling. Because it's nighttime, you can't see him.
No.
You know?
I've had people ask me before about, and they're good questions about if I've ever dealt with wildlife and all the different areas of the world that I've been with, or even training, or, our selection for deltas in West Virginia, there's bears all over the place. I've been very fortunate. Never really, I don't even know if I saw a scorpion, overseas that one of my dumb friends didn't catch to show off.
Yeah.
I've had very little interaction with wildlife. So, but I know what's out there, and I'm going to get that story out of you when we. In fact, we'll hop around a little bit just because it's fun conversation. I interviewed a Mac VSOG guy one time, and I can't remember. I want to say it's Cambodia. Cambodia apparently is full of king cobras. And he had several stories of having to deal with king cobras. There was one time when they actually couldn't move at night because it was so dark. So they would move during the day. They'd sleep at night, which was kind of odd to me. Like with our background, we always owned the night, but he explained it makes sense. And they had a tiger that was circling them at night. And I'm like, just all those Mac VSOL guys, they're different. But I haven't seen war. I would like to think that I've seen war. Those guys saw war.
Yeah.
Well, guys saw war.
Those are the guys who I was reading about. Those guys in the SEAL operators in Vietnam. And there's never been a Mac VSOG operator that had his buy his drinks when I was around after that, because I was
absolutely
like, you guys. Yeah. And I would pump them for whatever they would share with me. And one of them, it was in the SF safe house in Bangkok. One of your brothers allowed me, he hosted me, he goes, you can come in, saw me, you're not one of us, but you're a brother,
Yeah.
And so we're in there, and he goes, hey, this guy was, in this and that and the other campaign. I'm like, he's a Mac VSOG operator. I was like, oh man, will you, so a little deeper into the night, will you share anything with me? I don't want to be obnoxious, but come on, man. And the thing that he told me that I remember that resonated most, he said the most terrified he ever was across the fence in Laos or Cambodia, I forget which now, middle of the night, they're tiptoeing along and nothing's wrong. He goes, dude, I was out of my mind because I knew it's coming, but I
Right.
just didn't know when or from where. And he said, actually, once you'd make contact and the muzzle flashes started, then it's familiar. Then, okay, now I know what it is and where it is.
Right.
It's same as it ever was.
Yeah. Now
But
I know what I'm
until
dealing
then,
with.
he said, your mind will just work on you. He said, that was the most terrified I've ever been in my life. I'm like, man, that's wild. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that is wild. When he explains it, I get it. It makes sense at the same time after he explains it. Man, when you finish SEAL training, you get your trident. You get your trident like on graduation, or you don't get your trident until after.
There's
you
another
go
6
to your-
months of indoc, you know.
Right.
And back then, they would absorb us into the SEAL teams, and they would do their own in-house training. So for us, we would embed into a platoon that was doing a workup, and that platoon would work us through and pay extra attention to qualing us on all the different skill sets and everything. And then they would board you at the end of that 6 months and see how much of it you had retained, in addition to their observation, watching you in the operational environment and seeing if you've got what it takes. And so,
How unusual is it to lose someone at that stage?
we lost one.
Did you?
Yeah, there was a guy.
that's a
Hulk
tough
Richards was the commander of SEAL Team 1 at the time. Talk about motivating.
Yeah.
He was a multi-time Navy powerlifting champion, and he was a Vietnam veteran and hero.
Yeah.
And everybody loved him. And he called out this guy's name at quarters one morning and said, this is a new guy that came from Buds. He goes, this guy didn't belong here, doesn't have our culture. He lied to us and this and that and the other thing, and I'm throwing the heck out. And we were like, right on. Because we'd seen it, but we weren't going to
I was gonna
dog
ask.
him out, you know. But to see a leader hold a standard
Yeah.
for the right reasons was motivating. It was. So not all of us at that point made it, but
Yeah. What is the ceremony like at the team when you finally get to put a trident on your chest?
we don't say.
You don't say.
Well,
All right.
For me,
No, I
I can
respect
tell
that.
you this. For me, it was informal. There's nothing sensitive about this. So we were in Kodiak, Alaska,
Okay.
for weather training, and my buddy Murph and I had apparently won the good graces of our leadership first out of our group that had come from our Buds class to that platoon, and they decided to give us our tridents up there. And the way that they did it was mobbed us, you know, just mobbed like a rugby scrum. Like everybody just dives on. And I remember I had on, my pants were down around my ankles, had Danner boots on. My sweatshirt was pulled up over my head, and I was taped up and had a broomstick taped to me, and a bunch of whiskey all over me, and somebody had clam chowder, and I was wearing a bunch of clam chowder, and then and my trident, you know. So
Yeah.
I got a picture of me sticking a finger out from all the rigger's tape, you know, at whoever had done such a horrible thing. But that's their way of saying, hey, welcome to the Brotherhood, man. You're going to be one of us. You're an operator today.
Yeah.
We'll take you. You know,
And
so.
you had no idea it was coming.
No.
Did you?
No.
You knew at some point in this time frame it
Yeah,
was coming.
we knew it was coming up. We
Day.
figured it'd be back at the command.
Right.
Formal, like, these gentlemen have qualified. You know, we know we're just going to
love
get
it.
mobbed, and you know. But it was actually very endearing, and it wasn't dangerous or hateful where bones are getting broken or anything like that. So, but it was, you know, it's the way men do it, I guess.
If you've ever been to any of my tactical training classes, then you know how adamant I am about the use of white light and the importance of a quality, high-powered tactical light. That's why I use cloud defensive tac lights. You can't hit what you can't see, and neither can the bad guys. Clearly identify your target and simultaneously overwhelm his vision with hundreds and even thousands of lumens. Get serious about defending yourself and your family. Go to clouddefensive.com and use promo code Tier1 to get 30% off your order. That's right, 30%. You won't find a better light than this, and you won't find a better deal than this. Hazing, and I hate that the word hazing has now become a bad term. Don't get me wrong. Of course, hazing can go too far, and it's clear when hazing goes too far.
Sure.
But to not be able to haze, whether it be in that way, which is a little bit more of a jovial way, but even a hardcore for the right reasons. This is why. Here's the good outcome. This is why this needs to happen. It is reducing the effectiveness of our military because it does. Hazing is part of the culture, and it does. People are not going to want to hear this, but they're wrong. It does and can uphold a standard. It sets a culture. It's a rite of passage. Again, I'm not talking just blindly, that everything and even the ones that go too far, I'm like, well, we should still do that. No, everyone knows what I'm talking about, and almost everyone agrees with it.
Yeah, I think you touch on a good point. I think the key is adult supervision. Not do anything that's going to, burn his eyes, which I've seen, or have him roll around screaming because somebody spray painted his genitals and whatever. It's like, okay, maybe it wasn't a long time injury, but. I've seen some things like, I probably shouldn't have done that, but most of it, as long as it's in the right spirit and he's trusting you with his body. I mean, he's fighting, but I mean, he's not fighting to the death, right?
Right.
So I mean, there's a way that fight to the death. It's a little different than you fight against your teammates who are welcoming you into a club, right? So I agree, man. It's something that we've gotten so soft that you can't do that anymore. And I've seen some clever ones, and I'll share something I thought was hysterical. There was 2 new guys getting their tridents after I got mine. I was walking out. It was on a Friday. We're having a barbecue out back at SEAL Team 1. And one guy was sitting in a wheelchair, and he was taped to the wheelchair. And he had a cone, one of those traffic cones on his head. And the water hose was in the top of the cone. So it was blasting out over his head and his face, but he could still breathe because he's a Navy SEAL.
Right.
And, and they were making sure he could watch and tell whether or not he's choking or. But he's taped to the chair and he was singing songs about becoming a frogman.
Yeah.
And that was his sentence. So he was there. Everyone else is, having a barbecue, and he's over there by himself singing with his cone on his head about becoming a frogman. I thought that was pretty funny. And another guy was taped to the fence. So he's nothing but rigger's tape, this guy.
Right.
And he's taped to the fence. He's got a koozie on his head. Everything's taped but this one hand. So he's got a cup, a red Solo cup taped to his hand, and a koozie on his head, taped to his head. He can't see. And there's another red Solo cup in that. So they would put beer in the red Solo cup on his head, and he had to pour it into the one on his hand, and then he could drink. But he couldn't see where he was, but he could hear everybody, having a barbecue around him, and he's taped to the fence in a sitting position. And I thought that's funny.
That's funny.
Clever.
I've seen some clever ones. I was just thinking about it now. There's something else that by doing that because it's always going to happen to some degree, but then you kind of drive it underground. And what I mean by that is, if guys are still going to do it, and then they're going to do it somewhere that's not out in the open like that, that's where some of the some of the safeties and precautions is out in the open, and everyone can see it and say, "Hold on, that's a bad idea. Let's fix this." But if you're going to drive it underground, you're gonna lose some of the supervision of it as well.
Yeah. Agreed.
When you were at SEAL Team 1, correct? How long were you at SEAL Team 1 before Desert Storm or Shield first kicked off?
About 2.5, 3 years.
Which is a great time because it takes about, people don't realize this, and it's true whatever the special operations is. Once you get to your team, it still takes about 2 or 3 years of doing that job before you're starting to be good at your job.
Yeah. I had a senior chief of my first platoon who was good at everything. Everything.
They're the worst.
He was a very confrontational guy, so not everybody liked him.
Okay.
And I don't think he was concerned with that.
Yeah.
But he would outperform all the younger guys at running, swimming, shooting, everything. He was just
that guy.
Good, man.
Well,
and his name was Frank Radford. And he taught me all kinds of things. He taught me to be a point man.
Okay.
He taught me quite a bit. So I appreciated his mentorship and learning then. And then I'll say his name because he's long retired now. Jim Cauber was Master Chief of the Command. Fantastically motivating, just good. He was running the training cell and had a lot of really, really motivational, operational input to the training. And whenever he talked to us, it was always about current events and operations that were going on and lessons learned. And it was, you could tell he'd been around and seen a lot and was tied in on the intel of everything that was happening. So his techniques were really, really good. And he trained us in a motivational way. So
yeah, sounds like he was very authentic.
Yeah,
as well. Yeah. And I've said it before. It's hard to fake authenticity, and but people who really care about the boys. They care about standards, even if they do it in a very hard way. When they do it for the right reasons, guys will follow those guys anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Jim taught me to be a sniper even before I went to sniper school. So by the time I went to sniper school, I was able to do well because he had trained me very well.
Yeah. What was the flash to bang with Desert Storm? Was it a kind of a short notice thing, or you guys get a heads up like, hey, this is coming down the pipe, get ready?
We were out training in the desert, and we got literally one of the head of the training department drove out there in an old Jeep and gave us word, hey, quick intel dump, you guys are deploying, you're going to be the first over, so we're going to get you back, pack up, and you're heading over. We're like, right on, you know. So
was it only SEAL Team one that went in?
No, there was. I think there was some guys from 8 over on the other coast of Iraq, if I remember right, and then some guys from SEAL Team 5 went.
It just goes right time, right place. It's got to be hard for the other SEAL teams to watch the other guys pack up when everyone wants to go.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like, that's why you're there.
That's why you're there.
Some go and some can't. That's got to be tough. Yeah. I mean that happened once to me, but
yeah. What was your guys' mission for it?
We were doing pilot rescue, and so the Fast Attack Vehicle program, Bill Weber brought the vehicles over and trained us on them. He screened everybody to see who he wanted to be his lead drivers, and I got to be the number one driver for the program, and really loved that from my dirt biking days. And I think that's why I qualified, because he watched how I drove and manipulated or navigated the terrain at high speed at night, and he's like, I can train, so you'll be my And another guy named Craig was my TAC 2. He was in my platoon, so we got to have a lot of fun together doing those things.
By this time, I probably would have already put a photo up of it. Those things are just the quintessential Navy SEAL off-road vehicles. They've been cool since as soon as the world got to find out about it that you guys use those things. Yeah. They're just really cool vehicles.
Yeah, it was interesting the way he trained us too, because Bill had a big off-road racing background in network, and so he had those things built by Chenoweth there in El Cajon, California. And the way he trained us was no lights, no night vision, and go through. There was a set of dunes, but dunes that had plants on them, so they were hard dunes. And there's this whole giant miles of mogul field like that. So he took us out there to see how we could get through there, and he would right seat with each of us, and then he would have us do it with the lights on, and then eventually on lights off and on night vision, the way we were really going to do it. Yeah. And that was the process. It was interesting.
I hate to expose the military this way, but maybe not everyone knows, but just because it's military grade and it gets in our hands doesn't mean that it works or it's great or that we even like it. It happens. How about those vehicles? Were they great mechanically, speed, power, suspension? Were they what you wanted to use?
We put them through hell.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he wanted us to do. It was rough and rugged at first, And then he said, okay, now that you've seen that you can't break the vehicle, it's going to break you.
Yeah.
Now float. Now go smooth and salvage your vehicle, because you're going to be way on the other side of the border getting a pilot out of there before the Iraqis can get him. Don't break your vehicle there. So learn to surf that and be smooth. And so that's what he was looking for early on, is guys that could read terrain. I think the dirt biking growing up kind of gave me that. Well, I know it did. And so he built on that. And they were great. I could say they were great vehicles. The suspension would take anything you throw at them.
Yeah.
We had all kinds of incidents with them, because we trained with every helo squadron over there, because we'd back them into helicopters and they'd fly us in and insert us. We'd drive out of them, and then they'd pick us up right before first light. So that just after dark, that we'd insert, and then over one cycle of darkness, we'd get the pilot and back out and then extract. And it felt pretty cool, because when we'd drive back in, we're almost bingo fuel a lot of times, low on fuel, and the suspension would sit up, a couple inches higher than it had on insertion. And with the green lights in the helicopters, now my roll cage it was just clean them all out. There's only 1 inch of clearance on each side from the tires. So I had to nail that perfectly, but it was just blow out the first, the first time I did it, I'm like, sorry. They're like, we'll fix it. So after that, it was just a known. They had spare lights ready to it was just part of the maintenance of doing that op. But, would come back in every time, just shatter the lights and just chuckle. That's part of it. But yeah, they were great. They were great. They weren't fast. They'd only do about 70 wide open, the way they had them geared. But
70 in that terrain will
But you could do 70 over whatever you had the courage to hit at 70, because the suspension was fantastic.
I love to hear that, because that's like I said, I think they're cool vehicles. I'm glad it didn't take down put them a peg lower in my childhood memory of those and how cool I thought they were.
I got to hand it to Bill. I mean, he had a quality product made, in my opinion. They weren't the ultimate for everything, but I mean that's the best we had, and they worked. So,
was it at that time? Are you thinking about going over to the command? Has this crossed your mind yet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it started was up in school in Chicago. Guys would say, hey, man, the SEAL Team 6, they do this and that. I'm like, ooh, that'd be really cool. I wonder if I could make it there. I'd love to one day.
Yeah.
But it's almost like it's the same thing they said about SEAL Team. Well, you're never going to make it, So
right.
You could dream about it.
Yeah.
And DevGru was another step that they're like, yeah, you got to be a Jedi to go there.
Right.
And
they become these mythical figures that no one.
I'm not convinced that I can't make it. So I had hopes, but you had to do 4 years at a regular command before you're eligible. So I just learned and made my best contributions until we came back from Desert Storm and they did a screening, and I got picked up. So it was good.
How long did it take when you get picked up? How long does it take for you to actually go over there to the to Green Team?
It was a year.
A year.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a long time.
So they wanted me as a BUDS instructor. And I fully intended to be a BUDS instructor later on in my operational career. I didn't want to do it.
Right, yeah.
I just wanted to operate. That's, but I thought, okay, once I'm done with all that, I'll go give back and be an instructor. And they tagged me to be an instructor after Desert Storm. I'm like, I got picked up for dev. So you can.
Right.
So a friend of mine from SEAL Team 1, Kevin, had to go. They tagged him since they couldn't tag me. So he cursed me for a little while. Nothing personal, bro.
Yeah. What is the sentiment on the white side teams when you're hanging around for a year? Are they very supportive of it, or do they feel like you're leaving them? I
think it's honestly it's a mixed bag. There's some kind of obviously they don't want to lose their best players or their best contributors, so they feel like they're getting a little bit scalped, by a bigger team, but at the same time they're like, well, go learn and then come back sometime, Sawman, and so there's that part of it too. And some guys are like, I don't need that other tier 1 stuff. it's probably not all it's cracked up to be anyway. I don't need that. I'm fine here. I'm like, okay, good. This is a lot to do, and proud of you, and thanks for your service. And
Right.
for a lot of people, that's enough, and it's a lot because it's, just spec ops in general to destroy your body.
Absolutely. So you're about 4 or 5 years under the white side teams at this point, right? Mm-hmm. What is your feeling just in general with what you've accomplished, the work environment, the atmosphere? Were you satisfied with the SEAL teams for as far as like just job satisfaction, what you thought it was going to be, what you ended up doing, what everyday life was? How was that?
I liked the operating. Mm-hmm. I liked the training. What I didn't like, I came home from Desert Storm and my first wife was a crystal meth addict. And I won't go into it here, but I didn't get the type of support that I should have. Yeah. It was mismanagement from a particular master chief, and he's dead now. I won't badmouth him. And a guy that was drug addict. He's on his way out. He's getting med boarded out. And he had a bunch of narcotics and then it turned into recreational drugs. And so my wife bumped into that crowd while I was gone, and she was stressed and worried. Yeah. And she had come to find out later, she had an addiction to drugs from the time she was 16, but it was psychologically addicted. She had a lung condition that would almost kill her about twice a year. It's like CF. Yeah. And other than that, she seemed pretty healthy, but they always made sure that she was fussed over and had her meds in her purse in case she had a flare up because it was such a painful disease. Mm-hmm. And so she was psychologically addicted. And when I met her, she was doing coke. And when I picked up on that, I'm like, "What are you doing in the bathroom with the girls?" She's like, "Oh yeah, we just did a little bumper." And I'm like, she's like, "What?" I said, "Well, I'm not trying to be some little church boy, but I can't roll with that. Like, I wish you the best, but I got to go." And she's like, "Well, no, I'll quit." And I'm like, "Oh, don't give me that." She said, "No, really." And so she did, but she didn't quit with any support or training or therapy or anything to coping mechanisms. And I didn't know how to give her that. Right. So we went on and dated for several more years, and then she became my wife. And then, fast forward another 5 or 6 years, 7 years later, she was a mess. When I came home, I was like, "What the heck? What happened to my wife? And who are you?" You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I hated that book, The Fort Bragg Cartel. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but and I can only speak from my experience for 20 years from 2001 to 2021. But that book alleges that Special Operations has a massive drug problem, and for me, I never saw it. I never saw it at all, and it can't coincide really with a Tier 1 element. That culture can't, because of what you're being asked to do. Yeah. So they're wild, baseless allegations based off of hearsay or pulling out one thing and misconstruing it. But your time was a little bit different. It was a different era. Yeah. Was drugs ever an issue or no? And I'm not saying everyone did it, but I didn't see it. I think the guys knew. Yeah. Anybody that did knew that I wasn't the guy to let know about it. In fact, there was a guy, his dear friend of mine, talented operator, stud, good at everything, and he was at the command with me too. Yeah. He went to war with me in Desert Storm, and so we spent a lot of time together. And I didn't know because he was great at everything. So how he managed it, I don't know. I don't think he was doing much at all until at the very end, and it blew up on him. Yeah, that guy ended up in prison later because of it. Because I think when he started, it like took him over. Yeah, he said, "Craig, have you ever seen a guy that like takes a drink of alcohol and then
he's an alcoholic. He goes, that's what this stuff was for me. He goes, I had a big bag of this stuff a guy gave to me. And he goes, I basically sat and just did that every few hours until my life was wrecked and I was in prison. I'm like, wow, man, I'm so sorry. But he goes, yeah, but you know what? He goes, they walked me into a jail cell into solitary confinement. And he goes, there was nothing in there but a set of leg irons and a Bible. And I said, brother, is this going where I think it's going? He goes, yeah. He goes, I found Jesus in a big way. And he goes, I'm not anything. And he goes, I've been clean for 20 years now. He runs a big, awesome blueberry farm with his family. His son is just beaming like he is just joy. He's not into any of the stuff that the kids are into now. Healthy, family's great. He's running his blueberry farm on complete biblical principles. He's just radiant and happy and healthy. I'm just like, that's a beautiful, beautiful turnaround, man. So
it's almost like God has a plan.
Dude, completely. And he's even saying my blueberry farm's doing so well. He goes, people are asking me why I don't fence off the edges of the property. He goes, because I don't want to fence God in. He goes, I'm claiming the property next to me. He goes, we're going to keep expanding. Yeah. And he's blessed. He's literally blessed with what he's doing. So that's a really cool thing to observe.
When it comes to the training on the Tier 1 side, did you roll over anything, or you make it through? You make everything through first go?
Yeah, that went well for me. So I was glad to be there, and I was well trained, and it went great. I was grateful, man.
On the white side, did you get any exposure to teams at the command? Did you have any idea how good they were, what they did? You ever get to see them work?
No, all I saw was a recruiting video.
Okay.
Showing some of what they do. And it's like, wow, that's intense. That looks wild. That's big league stuff.
Right.
And so I was in awe, at that. And I saw that it was during my first platoon. It's the first time I'd seen that recruiting video for the Tier 1 command. And I was like, wow, man, no wonder they call them Jedis.
Yeah. I tell you, if the white side headquarters wants to keep all their best guys, hide that recruiting video.
Yeah.
You show that type of hype CQB video to some motivated young SEALs. That will be their goal.
Yeah.
For forever after watching that.
Yeah.
It's hard to see that and not want to be a part of it.
But I do like the idea of guys going from the command back to the other teams.
Yeah.
And sharing what they've learned to boost them up. And as I understand, a couple senior Delta operators did for the Ranger Bat, went back down, showed them more on the equipment and techniques and culture. And as I understand it, I mean, that was really a big boost to the Rangers, and they really were able to step up. So that's cool to see.
I hate this saying because it's so simple. It's so obvious, right? But you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. You always think you're the best, man. That's
right.
Human nature.
Right. Yeah. You think you know what good shooting is, or you think you know what high-level CQB is, you think you know what a good culture is, but if you've never seen it at the next level, and how are you going to make a plan to get to a goal that you've never seen? You've never seen in action, you've never seen it done. So someone has to expose you to that in order for that to be even on the planning schedule.
Yeah.
So it is important to go and give back to some degree at times.
Yeah.
I do agree with that. When you get to squadron, how was your first few days or months at squadron?
It was exciting.
Were you satisfied and be like,
yeah,
this is what I wanted. This is what I worked for.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was jumped right into training and started traveling and doing the workup and meeting the guys and getting it on. So it was good. I mean, I won't go into detail, but
right.
I was grateful to be there.
Yeah.
And You know, there's some funny stuff about how they welcome you aboard there too, you know?
Right.
And it was cool, you know?
How are you treated as a new guy? And of course, if even for us, like if from team to team, you know, you can have different initiations and different welcoming, but not just those initiations. But what I'm talking about is we have, it kind of depends on the team leader as well who's setting that culture.
Sure.
But some new guys are welcomed for the most part right off the bat, like a member of the team. Hey, you've earned it. You know, welcome the team. And there's definitely some other teams that you're a little man on the totem pole. Come in, take out the trash, shut up, don't talk unless talked to until you prove yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there is a culture there where the first year you're there, you're expected to just be quiet and put out and learn and absorb. You know, listen and not speak.
Yeah.
So, and that's wise because there's different techniques, different equipment, different mission set. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to absorb. So really, it's appropriate to just be a sponge and soak it all in and not be heard from. You know, so there's that.
Yeah. That's just,
And how that's handled can be colorful, but I won't get into that here.
I agree with that culture. I do. And, you know, I hate to sound like an old man who bucks it at change, but there was this soft culture that believes new guys should be treated, or that's not right. He's proved himself. He has an opinion. Like, let him weigh in on things. Like, maybe he has a good idea. And it's just, no, you don't know. It goes back to, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Shut up. Be a good new guy. Like I said, just absorb everything for a year. And just like hazing, there's a good way to do that. There's a bad way to do that. That is common sense.
Yeah.
But I've seen that work out well for years and years and years. And I've seen the other people who treat everyone like a buddy, and it turns into a bunch of friends rather than a strict, if you want to call it, pecking order of business. Because when it's at a tier 1 level, it's business. Like we can't let friendship blur the lines and softness blur the lines.
Yeah.
Only one thing matters. That's results.
Well, it's not like you won't be able to be allowed to make your contributions later anyway.
Right.
So you can say, hey, this is what I was trying to tell you, a year ago, but,
Right.
but there's something to be said for recognizing the seniority of, experience that you've stepped up to. It's the reason you don't see, high school football players going to college and saying, okay, let me tell you, here's how we're going to do it all. Or college going to pros.
Exactly.
Let me tell you how I do it. They're like, shut up, new me.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. It really is. I think just people in general, I think they do well with, sports analogies, and that's absolutely true. So if it's true there, it's true over here.
Some things are universal, right?
It's a universal truth. When the ride was over, and it's tough for anyone who's doing their dream job or serving at a high capacity, whether it's the white side, whether it's the tier 1, you're doing something special. That's a part of you, and it's part of your identity. When did you know the ride was over in your military career?
We were coming back from a wedding, one of my teammates, and my wife said, we're pregnant. I'm like, excuse me? And we'd been married for 2 years by then, and we hadn't planned that.
Okay.
At least I hadn't, because I was at the top of my operational career. I was enjoying myself.
Yeah.
But I was gone about 300 days a year.
Yep.
So I was volunteering for things, and I was getting chosen for things, and I was happy to do it. And it was cool for me, but it wouldn't have been a good father dynamic to be gone that much, right? So I could have stayed in the military and taken a short billet job, but then we weren't making anything. I wasn't making any money. I got guys that I grew up with high school with mansions and boats and retirement plans and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm slaving away for, minimum wage we could qualify for food stamps, and I got a lot of responsibility and making big things happen for Uncle Sam that's worth a fortune. And I'm only getting paid what a military E6 is getting paid. I'm like, this is not working. So I decided to go ahead and get out and apply that time toward a federal law enforcement career. So I bought back my 13 years is what I had at the time. Bought back my 13 years in the Navy and applied it to federal law enforcement position. So that's when I transferred to the Air Marshals. But I tell you what, looking at my team and saying goodbye was something I wish I could have a do-over on.
Yeah. Because
I couldn't articulate how I felt. All I could do was just get choked up and go, I'm moving on, and you guys are a hell of a group of guys. And, you know, what I didn't say was, I love you guys.
Yeah.
What I didn't say is, you guys are epic operators, and I'm honored to be here.
Yep.
You warriors, you beasts. Yeah. And I'll always treasure these memories, and I'll be your biggest fan. I'm not going to be here because I'm going to go raise my kids now, different season of my life. But you warriors have my greatest respect. I wish I would have had the command of the language to articulate to them, you know, at the time. But it's okay.
What year is this?
That was 99. Yeah.
And those guys had no idea what the next few years had in store for them.
Yeah.
I'm sure they went on, did amazing things.
Mm-hmm. Well, my wife walked in. We were in Vegas as an air marshal. My wife walked into the room. She looks at the TV screen, looks at me, and back and forth. She goes, no. And I'm like, I haven't said anything. But she knew what I was thinking, you know. So I called a recruiter. I said, hey, if all I need's, you know, a couple more years, can I go back? And they're like, nah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. It's so rare. I'm trying to think, in my time at the unit, I think only 2 people that I can think of, you know, just ETS as an operator and just, you know, left on their own free will. It's so rare because it's such a hard thing to accomplish. You know, it's hard to walk away from.
Yeah,
it's hard to walk away from, and both of them left for similar reasons. For family reasons.
I felt like that's like I said, my mom and dad were always there for me. Every football game, every track meet, martial arts, they were there at baseball games. I mean, I wasn't going to deprive my kids of that,
right?
If I could help it. And I was like, this is I've done this, you know.
That's right. Yeah.
And my wife stayed there and held the fort down. And you know, I didn't know until we watched that Act of Valor movie. There was a SEAL that gets recalled and he's going to deploy and says goodbye to the wife, and he leaves, and she closes the door and she collapses against the door on the inside, and she falls down crying.
Wow.
And my wife said, that was me every time. I said, yeah, get out of here. You probably didn't even know I was gone. She says, no, listen to me. That was me every time. I was like, why didn't you tell me? She says, because my mom and the other team wives said, never let him see you do that. Never let him see you sweat. He needs to know that you've got the fort held down. He doesn't need to be worried about what's behind him. He needs to be worrying about what's in front of him. And to her credit, man, I never had to worry about her. Yeah. I was focused on what I was doing. So, you see an operator, there's a strong queen behind him. If he's got one, he needs her to be strong. And that's one way that they can do it.
You want to talk about something we don't really get to talk about enough on this show? Your absolute Tier 1 women. Tier 1 women that are behind their husbands, that are asked to do the most that this country could ever need for them to do, and they're willing to do it, but there's no way they can do it without a strong woman at home allowing them to go do this with nothing but the mission, on their mind.
Yeah.
They're amazing women that go through so much.
Yeah. And to their credit, man, so many of them put up with so much, and they're rock solid. You know, it's some of them, marriages blow apart. I mean, their divorce rates staggering, but to those that can hold it together, it's inspiring. And I think there's a lot of healing that's needed, though. I didn't learn until later what trauma does to people, and I used to think, well, trauma is just if you're, scared and you're rattled and out of your comfort zone, and you almost fell apart or something like that. Well, no, trauma is if you've ever shed tears over something that hurt, you lost somebody, that's trauma.
Yeah.
And all those blasts and all that blunt trauma to your brain, that's trauma, and it changes the way you think and behave. And there's a lot of that's needed to be known so that there can be healing. And there's a lot more attention paid now to healing the brothers and helping them recover, which is awesome.
We process deaths differently, and I just haven't really thought about it honestly until you just started talking about this. The wives go through the deaths just like we do. The fallen teammates, they have to deal with that, but I think it's worse on them. Really, we don't have time. We mourn and we go back to work, and our and our minds get busy again, and we move on. They're back home dealing with it, and dealing with a spouse who just lost her husband, and they're dealing with it every day. They go to the funerals with us.
Yeah,
they're still helping out that Gold Star wife and having to relive this and be reminded that they could be next. And for us, it's just kind of something we close off and move on. They deal with it, I think, a lot more than we do. I don't think they get the credit for it.
Yeah, they network and support each other. With us, we just eat it and
Right.
say, ain't got time to bleed.
It's
the
true.
mission comes
Right.
first, and you got to jump back in. So,
Yeah.
that's an important point.
So you go off and you're with the Marshals now, which is the
Federal Air Marshals. Yeah.
Federal Air Marshals, right? What year is this?
99. Yeah.
99. More. That the Federal Air Marshals are about to get a surge here in just a few short years as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. How that?
It was good at the time. It was a small crew. There were only 33 of them.
Really?
And whenever they would petition to Congress for more manning, to cover more flights, Congress said, we don't need that. 33.
That blows my mind.
So, but the training was good. The pistol training was the highest qualification of any federal law enforcement. So, obviously coming from a Tier 1 unit and burning up millions of rounds of ammo and shooting and having the best instructors in the world come to your command and help train you is great. So that part of it was fun for me, and the culture there was good. It was a small agency, but morale was good, and they had a rotation where they could maintain the op tempo indefinitely, like our commands had. And after 9/11, all of that got thrown out the window, and they went on emergency fly all day, every day, and it just it fell into gross mismanagement. The wheels came off the bus.
Yeah. Did you run into any other former Tier 1 guys when you were with the Air Marshals?
There was a guy named Danny that had gone ahead of me.
Okay.
There, he was a pilot, and he's the one that told me about it. He goes, "Hey, this is not a bad agency if you want to be looking at federal law enforcement." And he was right, and so that was a good call. And there's another. He's passed away now, but Sean Kelly, was in Las Vegas, where we were. He was a commo guy at the unit.
Okay, that's cool. It's a small world.
Yeah, he and I became good friends, and even roommates after a while. And so
at this point,
there were several of them here and there.
Are you looking to knock out 7 years for retirement? Is that kind of the goal?
Well, I had to do 20. So I was going to do 20 and then add the 13 onto my federal law enforcement. So then retire with a 33-year package. That's how it worked.
I see. Okay.
So I had to do 20. And by the time I got to 5 years, I ended up having to blow the whistle on an SES level exec from the top of the FBI, and they ended up firing him for gross mismanagement and retaliation, but not until he retaliated against my family for the reporting. And he used terror tactics against my wife and children. He would send me from Las Vegas to headquarters at an empty desk for 30 days in D.C., and he would have his wife's FBI agents harass and terrorize my wife and two
This is
children.
because you blew the whistle on him?
Yeah.
What was he doing?
He was ruining the careers of my best agents, and I didn't know why. So he was writing them up for things they had not done wrong. He was fabricating dirt files on them. That's in hindsight, what we know he was doing. So he was keeping illegal dirt files. Like J. Edgar Hoover founded the Bureau. Right. And what he liked to do was keep dirt files against Americans for leverage on them. Yeah. Well, this guy was doing that against his own air marshals. He didn't care about. Now, we were there to keep planes from hitting buildings. It was a counter-terrorist op. But he didn't want to admit that because he wasn't trained for that. It's a federal law enforcement. It's not counterterrorism. I mean, he was a bureaucrat. Pathetic one, really.
Yeah.
So that was his MO, and he would write up guys, the strongest guys in a lot of cases, write them up for something. I'm like, what's going on? So I had 3 guys in 1 week come to me as their supervisor and say, hey, boss, I perceive a high likelihood of somebody going postal in this field office, and I got the responsibility to tell you, due to the toxic environment this guy has created, he's not a leader, and he's demoralizing everybody, and we're quitting to go back to our other federal jobs all across the country because this guy's, he's ruining everything.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know what he's doing, and he's just toxic. And so by the time the first 2 guys, I said, he's a tourist. He's only here as an interim employee. He's here to make an MOU between the Bureau and the Air Marshal Service. We arrest him on the bird, and they process him on the deck, right? So that part made sense. But he was milking it. I heard him talking to one of his bureaucrats in the hallway saying, yeah, I still hadn't, finished that MOU, and he'd been there for about 2 years. And I'm like, you just want to continue collecting 2 paychecks and not give the MOU that you're hired for. Meanwhile, you're ruining all these better people's jobs. So that's what I had to blow the whistle on him for. And, I learned the hard way, although not expected, that the entire system was corrupt, and they all protected who they thought was, the
swamp's a real thing
to protect. Yeah, so that's where I learned about deep state corruption is the swamp donkeys. That's where I first encountered those guys.
Swamp donkeys.
Just bureaucrats, man. They hated Spec Ops vets, and they especially
Because
hated
you hold
us
them accountable.
original 33 Air Marshals because we were senior to them, and they had to get rid of all of us so that they could feel okay.
Because as he found out, you can't be manipulated, and you can't be pushed around, and that you stand for something, integrity, and that he will see that and despise that.
Yeah. And my guys respected me. We had the highest shooting standards or qualifications for a lot of the time while I was there out of our field office, and we had the lowest number of sick days. So performance-wise, morale was high at our field office. And the other guy that was the SAC of that one that started off, he was an original 33 also. His name was Doug. He was former SF. And he'd been in the Air Marshal Service, and he knew a lot about civil aviation. Mm-hmm. So it made sense for him to be the SAC. They swatted him out of the way and put this other bureaucrat in there that didn't know anything about it. And so anyway, it was just...
What year is it that you left?
2004.
2004?
Yeah.
What year did you start the veteran for Child's Rescue?
2007.
Okay, short time later.
No, it was 2017. Sorry.
Okay, I want to jump ahead of that because that's important to me because I don't talk about it a lot, but I also don't hide the fact that I do work with the Sentinel Foundation, and there's no more precious resource than our children, and they have to be protected. And there's I don't think there's any greater evil than someone who would prey on a child or a woman.
Yeah.
And so I want to jump ahead to that.
Yeah.
So in You started that in 2017. What was the catalyst for that?
Well, as you know, some of us operators like to burn a cigar together when we catch up with each other. And so there were guys from several agencies in a backyard by a pool in one of them's house, and we were catching up, and one of them from the CIA brought up child trafficking there in Houston and talked about how Houston was the hottest epicenter for that in the continental United States at the time.
Houston,
Texas, really? Yeah. And man, I got to tell you, I found it upsetting. It was, for whatever reason, I was like, what? And he said, yeah, here's how it's done. Here's what it looks like. And I thought, well, how is that possible here in my home turf
right.
where we don't play that, right? I've never seen or heard of anything like that. You know, there's church on every corner, and you know, we're all about USA and God, country, and family. And I just couldn't reconcile what he was explaining to me. So I asked for more and more detail, and as he was unpacking it for me, I realized what he was describing, and you'll recognize this as your audience here instantly, is he was describing a covert operation, run domestically though, but at industrial scale.
Yeah.
So the children are a commodity that the American populace has no comprehension of, that we have no clue collectively. And there's nobody on any platform telling us what's going on. So it's the crime that there's no agency to counter. It's the crime that nobody's talking about on the news. And those who speak out about it either go missing or go quiet or spin out. And I just realized I have to counter that evil, and I have to do it with all that I am. It was just, again, this was my calling. I was like, nothing else, like everything else blurred out and zoned out, and target focus on this.
Yeah.
Like whatever that is, I say no. And I meant it, right?
Yeah.
And one of the guys, he was from Homeland Security and Investigations. He said, Craig, appreciate your passion and your background, you know. He goes, you may not believe me, but what you're going to find is once you start investigating and operating against this, unless you figure out the spiritual component, you're going to find that after years and years, you'll just be chasing your tail. You're never going to quite find what you're looking for, because on the higher level, this is a multi-billion-dollar business. It's global, it's ancient, and these people do satanic rituals with the children, and they power up a cloaking of protection from public awareness and from legal prosecution. He goes, you can think I'm making it up, but talk to me again in 10 years. And I tell you what, brother, due to who my father was a strong pastor, pure man of God. He's the closest thing to Jesus Christ I've ever seen or heard in human form in my lifetime. He lived it 24/7. He gave and gave. I saw miracles. I saw drug addicts delivered. I saw alcoholics turned around, families saved, you name it, all kinds of things. And so I knew that this guy was describing to me the truth, but I knew I wasn't that warrior, that spiritual warrior that needed to be up here that he was describing. I'm like, my God, have I wasted all these decades fighting what I thought was the worst evil, which is international terrorism, going to hijack planes and kill, civilians? That's pure evil. I'm gonna kill you, so you stop doing that, right? But what he was describing to me, I'm like, okay, they're preying on the children because they're innocent, because they're defenseless, because they're so spiritually pure, and that's why they get perks from the spiritual dark side for doing these sick things to children. So I'm like, wow, that's weird and creepy and dark. But let me, for whatever it is, I'll run an investigation. We'll make a documentary, Contra Land, which we've made, and it's on contralandmovie.com. Everybody can watch it there for free. It took us 3 years to film that. That was our first 3 years investigating and running ops and showing the people what we learned. But what I've learned since then, we've interviewed so many survivors of satanic ritual abuse from cult groups and witches' covens and corrupt religious institutions that claim to be under the banner of Jesus, but are actually at the very top. They're inverted, satanic, pure, wicked, satanic. And what they do to children, they do to get those perks for wealth and power. So all you have is weak-charactered men who want to be in a secret club to get ahead. And they're so weak that they'll do really dumb and ugly stuff to people that are least deserving of any harm. And so that will tear your heart out. That, brother, I don't care what you've seen. I don't care any operator, hard as nails. He could be the most decorated, the most battlefield experience. When you talk to these people that have been raised in families that did this to them or survived this throughout their entire childhood, it's unspeakable horror. And it's intentionally cruel for the reason of the power that it gives them. And the reason there's power behind it is because the fallen angels, this goes all the way back to Genesis 6, the fallen angels are making war against mankind as they always have, but there's an exchange of technology, wealth, and power for the sacrifice of children. Ancient Israelites turned and sacrificed their children to Baal and Moloch again and again, and then God would pull back his protection. They would get crushed and come running back. Forgive us, we repent, and he would allow them. And then they'd turn around and do it again, another generation or two. So it's nothing new. It's not a theory. It's, there's all the law enforcement investigations and prosecutions to demonstrate all of it. But we've got hundreds of survivors of this that we've been interviewing and learning about it. So that's what I think that the American people need to know. It's like, I felt like I was duped, sent overseas to fight some enemy that may someday come here, when the worst scumbags that I've ever seen or heard of are operating against our children right here and right now. And that may not look like it does overseas, but they stalk them on their smartphones and they can geotrack them, and they interact with the child through games and other apps where the child thinks they're playing a game with another child or doing Snapchat with another young boy or girl, and it's a full-grown predatory adult who's snatching children to traffic them for organ harvesting or for these rituals. And so there's a lot of money being made. So you got a multi-billion-dollar business going on right in or under our noses, and it's kept from us. So I thought, okay, what I need to do is compromise that covert operation. We got government agencies literally trafficking children. And by that, in case somebody thinks I'm exaggerating, we have Health and Human Services under the Biden administration. This has all been aired on open congressional session on C-SPAN. And so you can verify everything I'm telling you. But Tarly Rodas from HHS and a young man named Carlos have testified about them delivering unvetted or unaccompanied minors to unvetted sponsors. And so, in other words, children without parents to predators. And they were contracting a company out of Northern Virginia called MVM to covertly smuggle those children in like you would a covert arms drop or like narco traffickers would, and landing after hours with illegal tail numbers and illegal manifests that say cargo instead of souls, and children are taken off and the whole thing. So I've briefed some of the reps in Texas in the Capitol building on it, and we're just exposing it as best we can to try to get the cultural turnaround to say, whatever this is can't be part of our beloved USA. This has to go. I don't care how much money people are making. They're doing unspeakable harm to precious little children.
So I agree with everything you're saying. My question is this: whether it be the FBI, whatever you think about the FBI at its highest levels, the guys on the ground putting boots to bad guys, arresting bad people are good men trying to protect this country. Our local law enforcement, I go and I train them all the time, full of good men who want to protect their community.
Yeah.
As bad as a state we're in as a country, there is a lot of good men still willing to stand up and fight evil. And they do it in their own way every day. Why isn't this right here a bigger deal? And if you asked any of these men, I hate to just randomly pick out law enforcement and FBI, but you could pretty much pick out most men off the street, and their answer would be, and as much as I'm going to ramble here for a little bit, but I'm making a case.
Okay.
Even people will mock at what I'm about to say a little bit, but I believe this to be majority true, not 100%, but majority true. Most of our congressmen would be disgusted at the thought of a child being hurt and would want to do something about it, especially on one side of the aisle, at least. I'm not saying that they're all good, but we still have good men representing this country. Why is nothing really being done about this? And me and you talked earlier about the lack of resources put towards this. People can say they want to stop it all they want, but when you have 2 people in Miami and 2 people in Houston at their crimes against children task force, you're not pushing the needle, and you have hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands across this country of people fighting a losing war on drugs that will never win. Why aren't we doing something about this when so many people are in agreement about it?
There are multiple reasons. I think one that we've uncovered with our investigations are secret societies install themselves, their members, into key positions that run cover for their culture and their operations. So there's one. So
I agree with that.
You may have a good law enforcement, but you may have a corrupt judge or DA or mayor or chief of police or someone in the dispatch office that hears who law enforcement is responding to. So the bad guys already have a heads up because she's one of theirs. Okay. Because they put her there.
Right. A bad apple in a key position can do a lot of harm. I see what you're saying.
So that's one thing. Another thing, brother, and this pains me to say, but it's objectively true. The American populace on a whole, the average citizen, does not seem to have the moral courage to see the truth. You could show it to them, but they'll turn away. They'll turn away because they don't feel empowered to do anything about it. And I think the reason they don't feel empowered is because they're dependent upon their own personal strength. They're not networked in. They don't know God Almighty. They don't know the creator of everything. And the fact that he wants this exposed, which is my understanding, that's why I believe he's blessing what we're doing now. We're exposing it for all we're worth, and we're running the joint ops and taking the predators off the streets at every level, every rank. We don't care who they are. We prosecute them. Got to still 100% prosecution rate. So I think I want to say this, because this is important for so many things for our country. And I don't want to preach, but this is true. And so I'm going to say it. When the scientists are studying particle physics at the subatomic level, they're magnifying particles to the degree to where there's nothing left but energy vibrating at different frequencies. And they're like, we're not even sure there's any real physical matter at all. And so we don't know why each piece of energy is vibrating at a different frequency and why it's stable and why we can perceive it as physical matter. And they're saying there has to be a much greater power willing everything to behave exactly as it is. Well, my gosh, you're talking now about the Creator. So there's a song, Jesus Loves the Little Children. You know, he's singing Sunday school. And that's for a reason. He says, don't hinder them. Let them come to me. You know, and he said, It's better to have a millstone tied around your neck and thrown in the depth of the ocean than what I'll do to you. So he goes gangster on that when it comes to the children. How much more so should we? We're here now doing this in the physical realm. It's on us to do. So I think if people realize that their creator spoke everything into existence, and none of us are held together by anything more than his will, apparently, that's a lot of power. So if that's the guy you're answering to, why are you afraid? Right?
Yeah.
He says 365 times in the Bible not to be afraid. It's spoken again and again and again and again because that needs to sink in. How much better have you done at any challenges when you weren't afraid, when you weren't held back by fear, when you're like, man, I'm going to crush this, then the chains are off.
Yeah.
And I think that power is what the wicked fear, who want the control. So the network of international criminals who are always maneuvering for power through fifth generation warfare, ideological subversion that Yuri Bezmenov warned us about. Yep. We don't know that that's going on. And we don't know how to fight back because we don't have any leaders on any platform telling us you're under attack through fifth generation warfare and ideological subversion. They're infiltrating our key institutions and turning them against us so that we'll give up our freedom and liberty without a fight. Never mind the Delta operators. Never mind the DevGru guys. Why have them if we're going to give up our freedom right here? Right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's upsetting to learn that the Bible is true, all of it. And this war that's being made on mankind, the children are the HVT. The children are the most high value target because of their spiritual purity. That's what anyone who's come out of these cults will tell you. Any of these recovered witches who have been healed and found Jesus and now they're healthy and happy, and they'll tell you everything because some of them. I think it's fascinating for people to go and look at some of these people who have turned from that dark side because they're a wealth of knowledge. Know your enemy. Right? Yeah. And they'll tell you we were trying to send rituals and attack families or individuals, and there was a blue shield around them. Our rituals wouldn't work. We could kill people. We could make people sick. There's different things that we would power up through satanic rituals, and we try to exercise it. It wouldn't work on some people. And they would find out, well, that person's close to the Almighty. And he had supernatural protection. Well, I think we need to start comprehending the fact that that's a real thing. And then, okay, what if a warrior now, with all the kinetic skills, also connects what King David had, which is talking directly to the Most High God, who spoke it all into existence, who wants the children spared. Now you've got a real powerhouse. So right now, I think that's why so many of the hardest, most grisly warriors that I've ever met are finding a spiritual breakthrough, and they're calling me like, brother, I know Jesus, and we're supposed to love each other, and like we're not supposed to take this filth, And I'm like, you're right, yes, we're right, and welcome, and it's cool, And I'm seeing guys that were drunkards and were abusive and were skirt chasers. They're changed men. They are healthy. They are positive. They're productive. They're whole, and their families are healed. It's mind blowing. I want it for everybody, but it's a personal choice. There's no force, in the Father's kingdom. It's like, hey, you want to come to me? Please do. I want to bless you. I want you with me in heaven forever. But you can't force it on anyone. I mean, I grew up under my father. I had no better role model. I had no excuse for not following him. 100%. Knucklehead me wandered off, fighting, boozing, skirt chasing, whatever. For a while, I had to do it my way. Until I looked back and realized, oh man, my dad was right. Evil is real, and I could do something if I'm in a better place spiritually. And so that, brother, convicted me. That's what caused me to want to literally change and become whatever I needed to be now. Whole new type of warfare. I'm like, okay, I'm not talking about embarrassment. I'm not good at this one. Yeah. I got a lot of learning. I got to dig into my Bible. I got to start learning the history. I got to learn how the Father works and how the supernatural power works on both sides, and start getting in there. And now, dude, it's real. So my team are having doors open that defy all natural description and explanation. how did this just happen? I mean, doors are open, and I just got a phone call before this from a chief of police. He wants to have me come back up to West Virginia. One of the senators wants to meet with him. The governor came down to congratulate him after our last op, saying, "Hey, well done." Neighboring counties and another neighboring state want our operations there. These are places where these ops haven't run.
Yeah.
Nobody's challenged the child predators there or the child traffickers. So now we're getting into kingdoms and strongholds where a lot of these networks have enjoyed impunity until now, and some of these are networks that involve hundreds of billions of dollars in real estate loan fraud, which is how they launder their money, and BRICS nations funding of municipal bonds, which is how they pay off their installed officials that they put into place with election fraud and corruption. And we're starting to bump into and learn all of this, and it's all starting to come out. And we get to be right on the tip of that spear. And it's like, wow, I'm just a busted up veteran trying to learn a new type of warfare. But because the Creator wants it done, He's blessing it. So I'm getting away with a lot better results than I think I have talent, because I'm just doing the will of the Creator, who just wants children to be safe.
Well, you're absolutely right. A lot of these guys have operated with impunity because they're not living like hunted men, which is crazy that you can be that type of evil in this great country and not live in fear that good men are coming after you. Yeah. And that's part of the tide that I hope is turning because of organizations like yours. Yeah. If someone wants to get behind you and support your organization, where do they go?
v4cr.org or vets4childrescue.org. You type it in either way, it'll take it.
Okay.
And you can watch our documentary, Contra Land. You can see what happened to our daughter. Our daughter was abducted, and she operates with us now. Talk about wild, brother. I mean, I'm used to jocking up with my teammates, right? Putting on all the body armor, like, yep, let's go raiding. That's one thing, but to make sure the body armor's on your little daughter.
Yeah.
And even now my son, because he's on the drone team and camera crew. So, but it's beautiful, man, because they want to help. They're like, they see it too. They're like, somebody has to fight Papa. So some of my teammates are my own family now. That's wild. That's that's a bucket list I would have never even dreamt to request. But
that's a cool family business.
Yeah.
Right there. Talk about rewarding.
Yeah.
Well, that's not all you do. See this.
Well, this.
Tell me about your knife.
So as a sniper, we always said ounces make pounds and pounds make pain as far as your gear goes.
Okay.
So I always wanted to skeletonize and have every piece of gear be multi-purpose, so you're not carrying one of every tool, right? So this is just my interpretation of what I wish I had in the teams, and it's got 17 tools on it and no moving parts, and it's made out of real high-end D2 steel, hardened to Rockwell 60. So this should take care of anybody. We can even make a much more expensive version out of the LMAX, which is like the Uber ultimate for people that want to pay that. But it's got a glass punch on the back. So let's just say you wanted to rescue somebody in a disabled vehicle, a burning vehicle, punch the glass, cut the seatbelt, pull them out. That's just one application. It's got a pry bar in the front that's useful for all kinds of stuff for operators. And each of these holes in it are wrenches. So the four in the back grab the flat side of any fastener, any bolt head or nut, but it grabs the flat side so it never strips.
Okay.
So because it grabs the flat side, each one fits one metric and one standard wrench size. So you got 2 wrenches per each hole there. And then a flat blade screwdriver on the bottom by your pinky if you have a conventional grip.
I see it now. Yep.
Yeah. And then we've got, it feels pretty nice if you go reverse grip too, if you want to fight with it, if that's what you got. So we got the chimping there. And so that's it, man. We got really good quality clips on it that won't come off your gear. And it's got my logo on there. So this is what I wish I would have had.
Yeah.
That's lightweight, it's strong, it's going to solve most of the problems I need a knife to do. And I'm proud of how it came out. So it took 10 years of working with different knife makers to just get them to make. Finally, one guy made actually my design instead of changing it and doing something dumb, doing something else. But this one's all mine, and I'm grateful for it. So
I love it. This one's gonna stay in my truck with me.
So that one, yes, sir. That one's yours.
Well,
This one, you want the black?
Yeah, I'll take the,
all right,
the black
right on.
that one. But if
Stealth mode.
If someone wants to both support you and get a very cool knife, where do they go for that?
SawmanTacticalBlades.com.
Okay. All right, we'll put the link in the website to make it easy for them.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely. And we had a live to get ready to go do.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
Throttle up.
Craig, I can't thank you enough for coming over here, telling your story, sharing that, getting to hang out with you. It's been really cool. Thank you so much.
I've enjoyed it. I appreciate you having me on to talk about a tough subject, but one that I hope empowers people now that they know about it, and we could start rising up together and make our country better, safer for the kids. So
I couldn't agree anymore.
Thank you so much, brother.
Before I go, almost screwed this up. You got to tell me a funny story. That's how we end our episodes.
Funny story.
You got to tell us a funny story.
Oh man. Let's see.
And that's how it goes, right on the spot.
Yeah. Oh man, funny. We're shifting gears big time here.
Yeah. It's especially after that last topic. Some people may need something to make them.
Oh man,
I
got
smile.
a million funny stories, and I'm trying to pull one up right now.
This happens every time, and we'll edit it out.
I should have prepared for that. Oh, dude, I could tell you.
I should warn people about this, but I never do.
That was semi funny, but hairy. So we were in the fast attack vehicles.
Okay.
At Tier1, and it was a training op. It wasn't. We hadn't gone hot yet, and we had in an Army 47. So we were backed into two of those, and we're flying, and the chip sensor light kept coming on, and so we would do these fixed wing style landing across the desert, and rolling, and the crew chief would get out and bang out the oil filter and put it back in, and they would reset the computer and would take off again. Then we refueled in air, and then it started turning dark, so they just put nods on, and they went to go do this again. This happened like 3 times already. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, at what point does that engine start breaking up? And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm strapped into the driver's seat of the fast attack vehicle, and my other 2 guys are sitting over on the side of the bird next to the roll cage there next to me, and I'm on ICS and they're not. So I'm hearing the pilots, and they do this rolling stop because it pushes all the sand out in front of them so they don't brown out.
Okay.
For anybody that doesn't know why, so they're doing that, but because they're pushing this wall of sand out in front of them, they didn't see an above ground oil pipeline.
No.
So they pulled pitch as hard as they could, and I'm looking straight down at the earth. So this bird is completely vertical, and I'm thinking in my mind, I've been in a lot of aggressive, flying and helicopters in my day, but never have I been in this attitude.
Yeah.
With that little airspeed.
Yeah.
In a big bird like that. And I'm like, at what point is lift no longer lift? Like how much,
right.
I'm having these questions, but we're here right now. I'm looking straight down at the deck, and I'm hearing, like the pilots are yelling back and forth at each other, and they're like, pull back. And one of the engine blew, and we sat down on the pipeline. They got up just enough torque to get up off of that thing and then land. And of course, my guys are bolting out of the back of that bird, like right now.
Get me off this thing.
Hey, this mission's an abort. We're going to scrub an RTB at this time. And I'm like, yep, see, I'm spinning headset in the air. I'm running over into the other one. And those guys are already in the other bird. They're like, the heck with that thing, man. It's doomed to fail.
Oh my gosh.
To their credit, they milked it and got the most out of it. But yeah, that was.
Oh, that could have ended.
So the pipeline didn't
disaster.
blow or anything like that. But it was, that them yelling like that was kind of funny because they were highly concerned.
Yeah. It's so crazy the amount of danger that surrounds training, and it's not always the danger you think it is. It's something like that.
Yeah,
that's so crazy.
Yeah, it was in Saudi before we actually started the bombing. So
yeah, woo. All right. Well, Craig, thank you so much, and let's go do a live.
Let's do it.
See you guys.